should know Ryan Ferries. Why should I know this guy?
Man, I read a couple events. Nice guy. He has a lot of Twitter followers, actually. Not from Matt.
And Ryan Ferry is going to be on the play. Cracking wooded foothills. Being on the play is a huge advantage in this matchup for sure. If he has a turn 1 creature and you can apply some early pressure, that would be excellent.
All right, so Ryan on the, winning the dial. We will start on Goblin Guide and crash on in. Draws
Flooded
Fetchland,
Strand.
Flooded Strand here for Shoopman, so Shoopman down to 18.
And if Ferries can have something like a turn 2 Eidolon of the Great Revel, or if Shoopman produces some creature and then Ferries hits it with a Searing Blaze, he'll really start to pull ahead in this damage race.
And on Eric Shoopman's side, a lot of times that turn 1 Goblin Guide showing a land is free because they have to discard a card. Not in this case. Eric Shoopman does have a fetch land for Mausoleum Wanderer, so stays under 8 cards.
And Ferries won't be able to Searing Blaze this one in turn 2. You can just force Ryan to pay an additional 1.
Swing again for Goblin Guide. Cavern of Souls.
This is a fun test when it comes to burn. Sometimes they keep a 1 land and they're just casting 1 land spells, so we'll see what there is for follow-up.
Looks like a Lava Spike. That'll shoot Shoopman down to 12. The 1-land hands aren't inherently bad, though against Mausoleum Wanderer on the board, that 1-land hand is a bit of a liability.
Right, against a deck that's full of creatures with some soft permission. And how about this?
Ooh, Thalia's the play for Shoopman. If you're stuck on a 1-land hand, Thalia's pretty nice here.
Yeah, this is going to be really punishing. It's also just a 2-power first strike creature, so it just gets to check the Goblin Guide.
And Ryan Ferries, his draw for the turn is Lightning Helix. So yeah, no attack, can't cast any spells, passing back to Eric, and a big opportunity for Blue-White Spirits.
Yeah, Ryan came out of the gates with some early damage, but unless he starts drawing some lands, Eric might end this game still at 12 life.
Cavern of Souls Naming Spirit, that'll allow Shoopman to cast Kira the Great Glass Spinner. This means that Ryan can't reasonably ever kill the Thalia. Between the Thalia making spells cost 1 more, having the Kira ability on it, and having Mausoleum Wanderer to protect it, I don't see Burn removing this card.
Right. And Kira is a spirit, but it's not a tribal card. It just grants all your creatures this kind of force field effect. It actually used to see a decent amount of play in Merfolk.
Yeah, right. You'd think, it's not just spirits gain the glass spin, glass spinner, glass kite ability.
Yeah.
Betrayers of Kamigawa.
Jetting glass kite was a fixture of one of the Modern Master sets as well.
Ferries goes to 13 after cracking a fetch land here. It now does have 2 mana, but it'll be interesting to see if he can get out of this. There's so much taxing happening on the side of blue-white.
And Eric's damage output's getting a little bit higher every turn as well.
And he's going to go for Eidolon of the Great Revel. I was interested to see whether he'd play this or not. The way the race is shaping out, it almost felt like this Eidolon is going to hurt Ryan more than it hurts Eric.
If Ryan can make a 3rd land drop, one that doesn't deal any damage to him, and start casting Lightning Helixes, I think he can still win this race.
And Mutavault from Shoopman. 4 copies here in the deck.
Currently, he's taking 3 in the air. To make that higher, that means Eric's casting spells. So that's good for at least 2 damage off the Eidolon.
Okay.
But I think specifically land and Lightning Helix is the fact that it gains life is really what Ryan needs here.
Yeah, well, the spells, you're thinking about pointing it upstairs?
Yes. Hey, you can't point it anywhere else.
Sure. That Thalia, though, with first strike is still just bricking Ryan's attacks.
Right, and he has 2 creatures he could try to shove, but the Mutavault's just going to make that a null proposition.
Yeah, no 3rd land drawn from Ryan. He's now behind in the race. We will see for 2 mana Lava Spike, so Ryan will take 2 to deal 3. With this Eidolon in play, I don't know, this Mausoleum Wanderer is so good here. This is a tough spot for Ryan.
Yeah, even if Ryan starts, if you were to produce that 3rd land and cast Lightning Helix, the Wanderer will be able to at least check the first one.
Right, so what happened? The problem is Ryan still takes the 2 damage off Eidolon.
Right. And Eric just has 3 power of flyers, so that's just going to be a consistent damage source, whereas any damage that Ryan's dealing is reliant on casting spells.
Eric's thinking about a rattle chains on end step here. Does he want to go to 7 for it?
Doesn't make a huge difference casting it here or next turn, as it's just 3+5 is the way the combat damage works out. And
Right.
because Kira's blocking for his creatures, it doesn't really make a difference. I don't think he's going to be able to... I don't think that Ryan's going to be able to do 7 damage on the following turn, so it probably doesn't really matter either way.
Yeah, Shoopman will go to 7. He decides to cast it. Right, so this attack, the Wanderer will be back to a 1/1, so it is only for 5. If Eric can play and cast another Spirit to pump the Wanderer, he can put Ryan to 2, and that Eidolon should lock Ryan out of the game.
Yeah.
Or does he have more? He has another Rattle Chains.
Okay, this means any Spirit is lethal this turn.
Well, that seems pretty good.
2, 4, 6,
Yeah.
7 plus a Wanderer trigger if you can put a Spirit on the battlefield.
Yeah, lethal seems fine.
Yeah,
I'm in
I
for
will
lethal.
accept dealing lethal damage.
Any Spirit here. I think he has a second Kira. That works.
Yeah, you just sacrifice the fresh one to the Legend rule. Mausoleum Wanderer still sees it enter.
2 mana.
This one's fine too. Going to path one of the blockers, fire up the Mutavault, then he'll have 2 ground attackers, one of them will punch through.
Yep, pass the Goblin Guide away. Eric down to 3. Right. Activates Mutavault. So, yep, 6 attackers, 1 blocker, 5 get through. That's going to be for 9 no matter how Ryan cuts this. And he only has 8 life points to work with.
9 is higher than 8.
That's why I'm here. A block, and game 1 goes to Eric Shoopman. Blue-white Spirits picking up the W.
And a lot of that being difficulty with the mana development for Ryan, and Shoopman also punishing on that front, the Mausoleum Wanderer, the Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, making that tougher.
Well, it's a tough thing, right? So Burn is a deck that, if you're on the play, a 2-land is actually a hand with only 2 lands in is probably your best opening.
Yep.
A 1-lander with Goblin Guide and a Lava Spike, I'm not going to send that back with Burn.
Yeah, that's acceptable in a lot of situations, especially if your 2-mana spells can be so game-ending. We saw when he produced that second land, he cast Eidolon of the Great Revel, which is your best card in a number of matchups.
Right. Well, let's look over at the sideboards. First on Ryan Ferry's side, pretty standard sideboard here for Burn. The full set of Revelries. They have 3 Searing Bloods, 2 Rest in Peace, 2 Deflecting Palm, 2 Exquisite Firecraft, and he actually has 2 Ensnaring Bridges today. An interesting card, though not one I expect to see in this matchup.
Yeah, this is a matchup where there's a bunch of 2-power creatures, and he wants to be attacking. The 3 Searing Bloods, those are going to be the best cards here. They're not going to be great against everything. You know, Kira Great Glass Spinner is going to be a problem if this is the game plan, but you can get it in early anyway.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking is interesting. Normally in creature matchups, Burn goes for Searing Blazes and Searing Bloods. It's pretty clean. Eric's deck has 4 Rattle Chains, 4 Drogskull Captains, and 2 Kiras, and 3 Thalias. At what point does Ryan have to not... Does that game plan become not an option?
It really depends on how close the matchup is. If you feel like you're a significant favorite, and there's all these things counting against having this card in your deck, then just leave it on the bench.
Yeah.
If you feel like the Spirits deck is providing significant pressure, you have to race, and you just have to execute with a Searing Blood, which might be the case on the draw. I don't think is the case on the play. Then maybe you can just afford to have it on the sideboard when you're on the play, bring it in when you're on the draw to try to make up that ground.
Yeah, I was wondering something like that. You know, you've already seen Kira here, and you'd hate to have... The thing you would burn what you don't want is you don't want your burn spells to be unable to connect,
right,
which a Kira would do.
And the other card to be looking at, the 2 Exquisite Firecraft. This is a deck with some permission. However, there's some give and take with this one as well. It's a 3-mana spell against a deck that has already shown you Thalia. I mean, you can get it through Mausoleum Wanderer, that's kind of whatever, but you can't get it through Spell Queller.
Right, so it gets through half their permission. Maybe that's worth it.
Yeah.
But I could see that going either way.
Right.
I could see Ryan going all the way to presenting his main deck 60 again.
Yeah, that would be totally reasonable.
On Eric Shoopman's side, 2 Geist of St. Traps, 2 Vendilion Click, 2 Negate, 2 Damping Sphere, 2 Worship, 2 Stony Silence, 2 Rest in Peace, and a Ruined Halo.
So part of Ferry's plan, especially if he's bringing in Searing Blood, is going to be to kill all the creatures, but the Worship does combine with another number of elements of the deck. Those Kiras are going to make that job harder. Drogskull Captain's going to make that job harder. So I think there's enough argument to go for Worship in a matchup like this. And then the negates are going to be pretty good against a lot of what Ryan is up to. So these cards all seem quite good. Don't love Geist on the draw.
Yeah, that's my question. Is this a Geist to Saint Trapped matchup?
Once you're looking at Worship, it gets more inviting kind of play or draw.
Sure.
But I can see that one going either way.
I do like how Shoopman can just go on this anti-removal plan and how against burn that's playable. You know, things like Geist, Worship, and then all the other cards I mentioned that either have hexproof or have some sort of form of, I don't know, yeah, Kira, something like that.
Yeah, some kind of protection built in.
Yeah.
This is going to play quite a bit better against a deck that is bent on the attrition elements, whereas Burn can just say, all right, I'm going to go upstairs. You have to have the Worship. But it still plays here and can win a number of the games.
It's Blue-White Spirits deck, kind of a new one to the modern scene. Once again, the printing of Supreme Phantom, just like it did with Bant Spirits, pushed Bant Spirits, I think, up a tier. This deck without Supreme Phantom is likely not even a deck. Just as far as its curve gets pretty poor without that 2-drop.
I think you can fill in with this deck a little bit better, actually. I think that Supreme Phantom can be really mopey on its own, and it combines with Collected Company much better than it combines with Ether Vial.
Okay.
Whereas this deck, you know, certainly that extra power, it's going to come into play in a number of matchups. In particular, what Supreme Phantom has really done for Spirits is allowed you to erase effectively in matchups where you want to block.
Yes.
Because a lot of your creatures are just chump blockers usually.
Right. Most of the Spirits are low toughness, and Supreme Phantom actually cuts the other way.
Yeah. Though once you're in this Ether Vial build with Thalia, this deck was already a little bit better at blocking, but you're right. Supreme Phantom does upgrade you on that front. More Lords generally isn't going to hurt a tribal deck.
Certainly not. Yeah, what I'm interested on is that I'd said before, this feels like the kind of deck where it's just a better Merfolk deck, being just a 30 creatures for Aether Vial blue deck. Well,
I've been hearing a lot about decks that are better than Merfolk in Modern.
At some point, we're gonna get to the place where Merfolk is going to get pushed out of the meta. Okay, it's going to happen eventually. Turn 1, Rift Bolt suspended by Ryan. He was on a mulligan to 6 here. And Shoopman just a Seachrome Coast and passes. He goes to 17 from that Rift Bolt.
Now we'll see if Ryan can have a second mana source here. He's going to want to have creatures in this matchup because Shoopman has enough stuff that can disrupt a few burn spells in his deck.
Well, Ferries picked up Goblin Guide this turn. A turn late on it, but it'll still play here.
He's shocking here. You would generally like to see Eidolon of the Great Revel on that window. Could be a Boros Charm. He's shocking. He has something.
Yeah, it feels like it has to be a Boros Charm.
Maybe it's Searing Blood. So there's a lot of stuff that's not going to play against.
Eric says go, and we do see Boros Charm end step. That'll send Shoopman to 13. Remember, Shoopman, of course, could have a play here. Rattle Chains is available for the Blue-White Spirits deck.
Right. It would be disastrous if it was immediately met by a Searing Blood or a Searing Blaze, though.
Right. It will keep a possible Goblin Guide in check. But I guess you're right, could be Searing Blood. Here's Guide from Ryan Ferries. 2 cards left in hand, 2 mana up.
And he's shocked for that 3rd mana source.
Yeah.
It's got to be something.
I like that quite a bit. Attack with Goblin Guide. Negate the top card of Eric's deck. Won't get to draw it, but a nice one to have later on.
The first 2 turns made the negate look okay. Now that there's a Goblin Guide to worry about, it's a bit worse.
Here is Rattle Chains. Trigger on the stack. We'll go ahead and see.
Blaze it.
Does he have a removal spell? If Eric trades this, that's going to be a big win. And it looks like he gets to.
Yikes. And now he's drawing negate. He dealt with that creature.
Another Boros Charm sends Eric to 9, but Ferries is down to 1 card. And with Shoopman's hand being, I believe, 3rd land, 2 Spell Quellers, and that negate he just drew, you know, 9's a low number, but it's going to be hard for Ryan to close.
Kind of everything about Spell Queller is great against burn. You know, it has 3 toughness, whatever, but yeah, it blocks everything and catches all of their spells.
Here's Monastery Swiftsphere from Ryan. Just 1 card in hand. With just 1 card, on Eric's side, I'm down to Spell Quell just about anything.
Yeah.
That includes this Monastery Swiftsphere. He has to fetch to 8 to make the play.
We already know about Negate. As you mentioned, there's a second Spell Queller. He wants to just start getting damage in, because in the short turn, he'll be able to catch a few things that are lethal. And from 8, there's pressure on Ferries to even make Shoopman care about countering anything.
Yeah, now, it'll be interesting to see how much more Shoopman is confident to commit, because he is at 8. I imagine he wants to keep this Negate up as much as he can.
He's already seen 2 Boros Charms. In all likelihood, he's looking at getting hit by 3 spells for it to be lethal.
See Mutavault from Shoopman. And Supreme Phantom. That's something, I like this, where you can keep committing to the board while leaving up Negate.
Well, he has a 4 toughness Spell Queller now as well.
Yeah, attacks for 3, Ryan down to 12.
So that Swift Spear, that's probably going to be locked under that for the duration of the game.
4th land from Ferries, and he passes. Shoopman has both Queller and Negate up. With that much counter spell, if he has a 5th land, he almost doesn't need to play any more creatures.
No, he should be able to close this one. This is just a 3-turn clock. He has 2 counter spells. He also has 8 life to play with, which is kind of like a free counter spell as it is.
Adds Mutavault in. That's a 3/3 Mutavault thanks to the Supreme Phantom. So this attack will be for 7.
Yeah, now that's just a 2-turn clock with the Mutavault, and he gets to leave up Negate the whole time.
Tough to lose from there to a 1-card hand. Sends Ryan down to 5.
That's just math.
And 1 more card drawn for Ferries. And he extends the hand. Eric Shoopman, Blue-White Spirits, 10-1. A convincing 2-0 over Burn here.
Yeah. I do think that it is a rougher matchup for Spirits. You saw there, Ryan only had the 1 land in Game 1. His mana was a little bit taxed by the spells that Shoopman was casting as well, and then really never was able to get set up. In Game 2, mulligan to 6, a little heavy on lands, but for Shoopman, we have him at going on to 10-1 with Blue-White Spirits, another deck that I don't know how much was on anybody's radar going into this weekend.
Yeah.